Tonight, before the first light touches the waters of the Tigris, you are arriving in Baghdad in the year 830 AD. Ahead of you lies one of the greatest cities on earth. A city of merchants, poets, physicians, astronomers, translators, craftsmen, and travelers from lands far beyond the horizon. Behind its walls, lamps burn beside unfinished manuscripts. Bakers prepare bread for the morning markets. Sailors guide wooden boats through the darkness. And scholars study ideas carried from Greece, Persia, India, and distant cities across the known world. Stay with me and allow Baghdad's streets, gardens, libraries, and riverside markets to slowly awaken around you. The night is calm above Mesopotamia. A dark blue sky stretches across the flat landscape. Thousands of stars remain visible in the dry, clear air. Some appear fixed above the city. Others seem to tremble gently in the reflection of the river. The Tigris flows steadily beside you. Its water is dark before sunrise. Only the pale moonlight reveals the movement of the current. Occasionally, the surface curls around a wooden post or touches the side of a moored boat. Then it continues southward, carrying water through Baghdad and toward lands beyond the city. Your small riverboat moves quietly downstream. A square sail has been lowered because the night wind is weak. Two boatmen stand near the stern. One guides the vessel using a long wooden steering oar. The other watches the dark water ahead. They know this part of the river well. The hidden shallows, the stronger currents, the places where fishing nets may be stretched between smaller boats, the busiest landing areas, and the sections of riverbank where the mud becomes too soft for a loaded vessel to approach safely. The boatmen speak only when necessary. A brief instruction, a quiet warning, then silence returns. On the eastern bank, Baghdad begins to appear. At first, you see only isolated lights. A lantern beside a riverside landing. A small flame inside a watchtower. The glow of an oven behind a workshop wall. Then more lights emerge. They form narrow lines along streets still hidden in darkness. Some belong to homes, others to mosques, caravanserais, warehouses, guard posts, and workshops whose labor begins before dawn. The city is not fully asleep. A city this large never completely rests. Baghdad stands at the center of an enormous network of roads, rivers, trade routes, and ideas. Caravans arrive from Persia and Central Asia. Boats carry grain, dates, timber, pottery, textiles, and people along the Tigris. Merchants travel from cities near the Mediterranean. Others arrive from India or from lands farther east. Some bring spices, some silky, some precious stones. Others bring books, letters, observations, stories, and questions. Every traveler enters Baghdad carrying a small piece of somewhere else. And the city gathers those pieces together. If peaceful journeys through history help you relax, leave a quiet like and subscribe to NILOIA. And now, let us enter Baghdad during the Islamic Golden Age. Your boat passes beneath the shadow of a riverside structure built partly upon wooden supports. A covered balcony projects over the water. Its shutters are closed. During the day, the room may be used by a merchant who wishes to receive cool air from the river. Now only a single lamp glows behind a narrow opening. The flame moves slightly when the night breeze passes through. Farther along the bank, several cargo vessels rest beside a stone and timber quay. Their hulls sit low in the water. They have arrived heavily loaded. One carries sacks of grain. Another holds clay jars sealed with wax and cloth. A third has brought timber from regions where trees grow more abundantly than they do around Baghdad. Several dockworkers are already awake. They move beneath oil lamps, preparing ropes and wooden ramps before the morning unloading begins. A man kneels beside a thick rope. He runs both hands along its length. A damaged section could break beneath the weight of cargo. He finds several weak fibers. The rope is set aside for repair. Another worker checks the knots securing a boat to the quay. The river level can change. The current pulls constantly. A vessel that seems secure at midnight may sit differently by morning. The worker loosens one line, tightens another, then steps back to inspect his work. Near the end of the quay, a watchman sits upon a low stool. A spear rests against the wall beside him. His lamp has burned through much of its oil. He rubs his eyes and looks toward the eastern horizon. His shift is nearly complete. For hours, he has watched the boats, warehouses, and narrow paths beside the river. Theft is a concern. So is fire. Many goods stored here are dry and valuable. Cloth, wood, paper, oil. A single flame can destroy what required months to transport. The watchman rises and walks slowly between the warehouse doors. Each one is checked. The locks remain in place. The night has passed without trouble. Across the water, a fisherman lifts a small net from the Tigris. Drops of water shine briefly in the moonlight. Several fish move inside. Not a large catch, but enough to sell when the morning market opens. The fisherman empties them into a wet basket. He checks the net for damage, then casts it again. The weighted edge touches the river in a wide circle before disappearing beneath the surface. His son sits near the bow, wrapped inside a woolen cloak. The boy is awake, but only just. He watches his father work. Sometimes he holds the lantern. Sometimes he pulls a rope. Most of the time, he learns by observing. The river has taught generations of Baghdad's fishermen the same lessons. Patience, timing, attention to weather, respect for currents that appear gentle but can become dangerous. The boy looks toward the lights of the city. Before long, the riverbank will be crowded. Porters will arrive. Merchants will argue over deliveries. Cooks will inspect fish. Animals will drink near the water. For now, he and his father have the river almost to themselves. Your boat continues. The air carries several fragrances from the shore. Wet earth, river water, wood smoke, a trace of sesame oil, and something warmer, fresh bread. Somewhere beyond the waterfront, bakers have begun preparing the first loaves of the day. Baghdad's neighborhoods contain ovens of many sizes. Some belong to individual bakeries. Others serve several households. Bread is required early. Laborers will purchase it on their way to work. Travelers need food for the road. Merchants and officials will expect it at the morning meal. Families may bring prepared dough to a neighborhood oven and return later to collect the baked loaves. The boat approaches a quieter landing. One of the boatmen lowers a rope around a wooden post. The vessel turns gently. Its side touches the landing with a soft sound. You step onto the riverbank. The earth is firm here, reinforced with stone and timber. Your sandals meet the cool surface. A narrow path climbs between warehouse walls toward the sleeping streets. Behind you, the boatmen secure the vessel. Their journey will continue later. For now, they wait for daylight and new passengers. You begin walking. The path is dimly illuminated by lamps placed inside small niches. The walls on either side are built from baked brick. Some surfaces have been covered with pale plaster. Others reveal rows of reddish-brown brick beneath the night sky. Baghdad's buildings often turn inward. From the street, a home may appear simple and closed. Behind its doorway, however, there may be a peaceful courtyard. A fountain, trees, painted rooms, carved wooden screens, a garden protected from the heat and noise of the city. Privacy shapes the architecture. The street offers little. The interior holds the life of the household. You pass a heavy wooden door. Behind it, someone is awake. You hear the faint scrape of a broom across stone. Then the splash of water being poured into a basin. A servant or family member is cleaning the courtyard before morning. Dust enters every building. It arrives from streets, construction, animals, workshops, and the dry land beyond the city. Sweeping is repeated daily. Water settles the dust and cools the stone. Inside another home, a woman kneels beside a small oven. She places dry twigs beneath charcoal saved from the previous evening. A spark catches. The flame spreads slowly. Warm light moves across the kitchen walls. Clay pots stand upon shelves. A brass tray rests near the doorway. Bundles of dried herbs hang from wooden beams. She adds a larger piece of fuel and places a covered pot above the heat. The morning meal may include bread, dates, cheese, olives, yogurt, or a warm grain dish. The ingredients vary according to wealth, season, and household custom. The need is the same. Everyone must begin the day with enough strength to continue. In the adjoining room, children remain asleep upon mattresses and woven mats. The youngest child turns when the sound of the fire reaches him. His mother pauses. He becomes still again. She returns to her work. The quiet moments before the household wakes are valuable. Soon questions will begin. Water will be needed. Clothing must be found. Someone will be late. Someone will refuse to eat. For now, the room belongs to the small flame and her familiar movements. You continue into a wider street. A water carrier walks ahead of you. Two large containers hang from a wooden frame across his shoulders. They are empty. He is making his way toward a public fountain or canal-fed reservoir before the streets become crowded. Access to water shapes every city. Baghdad stands beside a great river and is connected with canals, but water still must be lifted, transporting, stored, and kept as clean as possible. The wealthy may have servants who carry it. Others purchase water from men who walk through neighborhoods calling to customers. The water carrier's work is physically demanding. A full container pulls at the shoulders. The journey must be repeated many times. He adjusts the wooden frame. The containers swing slightly, then settle. At the next intersection, he disappears into the darkness. A night patrol approaches from the opposite direction. Three guards walk together. One holds a covered lantern. Another carries a staff. Their task is to maintain order, watch for fire, and investigate anything unusual. The streets are quiet enough for every sound to carry. Their sandals, the metal fitting on a belt, a low conversation. When they reach you, the lantern briefly illuminates their faces. They glance toward you, then continue. Baghdad welcomes travelers, but large cities also teach caution. A stranger may be a merchant, a scholar, a pilgrim, a messenger, or someone with less peaceful intentions. The guards turn a corner. The light fades behind them. Ahead, the street widens beside a small mosque. Its courtyard gate remains closed, but a lamp burns near the entrance. The building is modest compared with Baghdad's great congregational mosques. It serves the surrounding neighborhood. Soon, people will gather here for the dawn prayer. The call has not yet begun. Inside, a caretaker prepares the space. He checks the lamps, sweeps part of the courtyard, fills a vessel near the washing area. The stone is cool beneath his bare feet. His actions are quiet and practiced. The mosque is a place of prayer, but also one of teaching, conversation, charity, and neighborhood connection. A child may learn letters here. A traveler may rest. A legal question may be discussed. News may pass from one person to another beneath the shaded walls. Like many buildings in Baghdad, it carries several purposes at once. You leave the mosque and follow the scent of bread. The fragrance grows stronger with every step. A bakery stands near the corner of a market street. Its wooden shutters have been opened halfway. Golden light spills across the ground. Inside, the baker and two assistants move around a large clay and brick oven. One assistant divides dough upon a wooden table. The pieces are shaped quickly. Flat circles, longer loaves, small rounds sprinkled with sesame seeds. The second assistant presses the dough against the hot inner wall of the oven using a padded tool. Within moments, the surface begins to rise. The baker watches closely. Bread baked against intense heat can cook quickly. A moment too long, and the edge burns. A moment too short, and the center remains heavy. He removes one loaf using a narrow metal hook. The bread is placed upon a woven tray. Steam rises. The crust carries dark marks where it touched the oven wall. The first customer has already arrived. A porter from the river waits outside. He purchases 2 loaves and a small portion of cheese wrapped inside leaves. He eats one piece immediately. The other will be carried to work. The baker accepts a coin. No greeting is necessary. They know one another. The same purchase may happen almost every morning. Inside the bakery, an apprentice adds flour to the table. A white cloud rises briefly. He coughs. The older assistant laughs softly. The boy is new. Soon flour will cover his clothing so completely that he stops noticing. The oven glows. More loaves are prepared. The street fills with warmth. A cat waits near the doorway, watching for scraps. The baker tears off a burned edge and drops it outside. The cat approaches cautiously, then carries the piece into the shadow of a wall. Farther along the market street, shutters remain closed. But activity has begun behind them. A spice merchant checks wooden boxes. A cloth seller unties rolls of fabric. A metalworker adds charcoal to a small furnace. A bookseller removes protective cloth from shelves holding manuscripts. The market does not open at a single moment. It awakens piece by piece. A lock moves. A door opens. A lamp is extinguished. A broom crosses the ground. Then another shop joins the day. You pause beside the bookseller's entrance. Inside, the air smells of paper, leather, ink, and wood. Shelves contain bound volumes and stacks of loose pages. Some works are written on paper, others on parchment. Paper has become increasingly important in the Islamic world, allowing texts to be produced more widely than when writing materials were more limited and expensive. The shop carries poetry, religious works, grammar, medicine, astronomy, mathematics, philosophy, collections of stories, letters and practical manuals. Some books are ready for sale. Others have been commissioned by specific customers. A copyist sits near a lamp at the rear of the shop. He has been working through much of the night. A page lies before him. His reed pen moves steadily from right to left. The lines of black ink are controlled and elegant. Occasionally, he pauses to dip the pen, then continues. A small container holds sand used to help dry the writing. Beside the page rests the text he is copying. The original is older. Its edges show wear. The copyist reads a short section, writes, checks the line, then reads again. Copying requires more than beautiful handwriting. The words must remain accurate. A missing mark can alter meaning. A skipped line can confuse an entire argument. The copyist notices that one sentence appears unusual. He looks back at the original, reads it twice. Perhaps the earlier copy contains an error. Perhaps the wording is simply unfamiliar. He makes a small note in the margin for the scholar who commissioned the work. Books travel through generations of careful uncertainty. One person writes, another copies, another questions, another corrects. Knowledge survives because people are willing to look again. The bookseller enters from a side room. He carries a tray holding warm tea or an herbal drink. He places a cup beside the copyist. The writer lifts his head, thanks him, then stretches his fingers. His hand is stiff. He has completed many pages, but the book is far from finished. The bookseller examines the work. The script is clear. The margins even. The page will satisfy the customer. For a few moments, they speak quietly about the day ahead. A scholar is expected. A student may come to collect a grammar text. A wealthy official has asked to see a copy of a work on geography. The shop will soon become crowded. For now, it remains peaceful. You continue along the market street. The sky above the rooftops is changing. The darkest blue has softened. A pale band appears in the east. Stars begin disappearing one by one. The upper surfaces of domes and minarets become visible. Their outlines rise above the flat roofs. Baghdad stretches much farther than you can see from the street. Neighborhoods spread across both sides of the Tigris. Palaces, markets, gardens, mosques, homes, workshops, hospitals, schools, administrative buildings, and caravanserais form a city whose population is larger than that of most places in the world. Yet from this quiet corner, Baghdad still feels personal. A baker, a bookseller, a water carrier, a watchman waiting for dawn. The greatness of the city is built from countless small mornings. You turn toward the river again. A narrow lane leads to another landing. Several porters now gather there. Some carry wooden poles. Others prepare handcarts. A foreman holds a wax tablet or sheet used to record deliveries. He reads a list of ships expected to unload. Grain, dates, ceramic jars, bales of cloth, bundles of paper. The workers listen. They will be assigned according to the weight and urgency of the cargo. One porter is older than the others. He wraps cloth around his shoulder to protect it from heavy loads. Another worker checks the wheels of a cart. A broken wheel on the quay can delay everyone. He presses one foot against the frame. The cart holds. The work can begin when daylight arrives. On the river, boats have multiplied. Fishermen return with their catch. A ferry carries several early passengers. A narrow vessel loaded with vegetables moves toward the city. Its baskets contain cucumbers, onions, herbs, melons, and leafy greens grown in irrigated gardens outside Baghdad. A farmer sits near the bow. His clothes are damp from the morning air. He watches the landing carefully. The vegetables must reach the market before the heat grows stronger. Freshness has value. Delay reduces it. The boat touches the quay. Porters secure the rope. The first basket is lifted. The farmer climbs ashore. His day has already included a journey, and the market has not yet opened. A faint voice rises from a minaret. The call to the dawn prayer begins. The sound crosses the rooftops. It travels along the river, moves through courtyards and narrow lanes, reaches sleeping families, guards ending their patrol, merchants preparing shops, and travelers resting inside caravanserais. Other voices answer from distant neighborhoods, not at exactly the same moment. One call begins, another follows, then another. The city seems to awaken through layers of sound. People pause. The baker leaves an assistant near the oven. The water carrier sets down his containers. A boatman turns his face toward the city. Inside homes, doors open. Some people make their way toward nearby mosques. Others prepare to pray where they are. The moment creates a shared rhythm across a city filled with different occupations, languages, and social positions. For a short time, the market waits. The river continues moving. The first golden line of sunlight appears above the eastern horizon. It touches the highest minaret, then the upper walls of a palace farther away. The light moves slowly downward, across domes, rooftops, palm leaves, wooden balconies. The surface of the Tigris changes from dark blue to bronze. Every ripple catches the morning. Birds rise from the riverbank. Their wings flash above the water. The night lamps begin to look pale. One by one, they are extinguished. The watchman at the warehouse ends his shift. Another man arrives to replace him. The two exchange a few words. Nothing unusual happened. The boats are secure. The locks have been checked. The night is handed over to the day. The market street grows louder. Shutters open fully. Merchants carry tables outside. Baskets of dates are arranged beneath awnings. Bundles of cloth appear in red, blue, green, white, and gold. A coppersmith places polished vessels where the sunlight can reach them. Their surfaces reflect the street. A spice seller opens the first box. Cinnamon, pepper, cumin, saffron, and dried herbs release their fragrances into the warm air. A donkey enters, carrying two large baskets. Its handler asks people to move aside. Children appear with bread in their hands. Servants carry water. Students walk toward lessons, holding writing boards and pages. A physician's assistant crosses the street with a covered basket of instruments and medicines. The day gathers speed. You climb a short staircase leading to a terrace above the river. From here, the morning city opens before you. The Tigris curves through Baghdad. Boats move across its shining surface. Bridges and ferries connect neighborhoods. Gardens create patches of green among brick walls and pale rooftops. Smoke rises from ovens. Minarets stand above the streets. Farther away, grand buildings belonging to the caliphal administration appear through the morning haze. Somewhere within the city, officials prepare documents. Scholars open books. Translators compare languages. Astronomers record observations made during the night. Physicians begin visiting patients. Merchants calculate prices. Craftsmen select tools. The city's reputation may be built upon palaces and learning. But its morning depends upon bread, water, boats, fire, and human hands. The sun rises higher. Warm light spreads across the terrace. You look once more toward the river. The peaceful darkness has disappeared. Baghdad is fully awake. Ahead, the market district is filling with travelers and goods from across the known world. Beyond it lie the bookshops, libraries, hospitals, observatories, gardens, mosques, and halls where ideas are translated and transformed. The river has carried you to the city. Now, the streets will carry you into its heart. The morning light grows warmer above the Tigris. From the terrace, you watch the river carry boats toward the crowded landings. Long vessels loaded with grain move slowly beside smaller fishing boats. Ferries cross between neighborhoods. Porters wait at the quays with ropes wrapped around their shoulders. Beyond them, Baghdad stretches beneath the rising sun. Brick rooftops, courtyard gardens, domes, minarets, warehouses, narrow streets already beginning to fill. The city seems almost endless. Yet every person moving below has a particular destination. A baker carries warm loaves toward a food stall. A physician's assistant protects a basket of glass bottles beneath a cloth. A student holds several pages tightly against his chest. A merchant follows two donkeys carrying bundles wrapped in woven mats. All of them are being drawn toward the same place. The markets of Baghdad. You descend from the terrace and enter the morning crowd. The street beneath you is broad enough for pack animals and handcarts, though movement quickly becomes slow. People do not walk in a straight line. They adjust constantly. A porter shifts a sack from one shoulder to the other. A donkey stops unexpectedly. A customer pauses in front of an open stall. Two acquaintances greet one another in the middle of the road. The people behind them wait or find another path. Baghdad moves through patience and improvisation. The market district does not occupy one building or one square. It extends through a network of streets, covered passages, courtyards, and specialized rows of shops. One lane belongs mainly to cloth merchants, another to metalworkers, another to perfume sellers. Food vendors gather close to busy entrances. Booksellers prefer areas where scholars and students regularly pass. Animal dealers remain farther from delicate goods. Trades are separated partly for convenience, partly because each creates its own sound, smell, waste, and danger. A blacksmith's sparks do not belong beside rolls of expensive silk. A fish stall does not belong beside a perfumer. A pottery seller needs space where fragile vessels will not be struck by pack animals. The city has learned to arrange itself through long experience. The first lane you enter belongs to the sellers of dates and dried fruit. Large woven baskets stand beneath cloth awnings. Their contents range from pale gold to deep brown. Some dates are soft and fresh. Others have been dried for travel. They may remain edible for long periods and can be carried by caravans, soldiers, pilgrims, sailors, and merchants. A seller arranges them into careful piles. He places the finest fruit near the front. Larger, softer, and marked. Behind these are cheaper dates used for cooking, syrup, or ordinary meals. A woman examines one pile. She presses the skin gently. The seller offers a sample. She tastes it. considers the sweetness, then asks the price. The conversation begins politely. It does not remain brief. She knows the market. The seller knows she knows. A lower price is requested. The seller looks offended. Another amount is suggested. The woman begins to walk away. The seller calls her back. A final figure is agreed upon. Both appear satisfied enough. The dates are weighed and poured into her basket. Trade has become a small performance. Not hostile, not dishonest. A familiar exchange in which both sides expect negotiation. Beside the dates stand baskets of raisins, dried figs, almonds, pistachios, and walnuts. Some have arrived from irrigated lands close to Baghdad. Others have traveled through mountain regions or distant provinces. Food that can survive a journey becomes especially valuable in a city connected to long trade routes. A merchant lifts a handful of pistachios and allows them to fall slowly through his fingers. The shells make a soft, dry sound. A traveler purchases a small bag. He will carry it eastward when his caravan leaves. The food is light, compact, rich enough to sustain him between larger meals. You continue into the next street. The fragrance changes immediately. Cumin, coriander, cinnamon, pepper, cloves, dried mint, cardamom, saffron. Some scents are familiar to local kitchens. Others suggest journeys far beyond Mesopotamia. Wooden boxes and ceramic containers cover the spice merchants' counters. The most precious ingredients remain closed until a customer asks to see them. Dust, moisture, insects, and careless hands can ruin valuable goods. A merchant opens a small box lined with cloth. Inside lies a dark, fragrant spice that has traveled through many hands. Farmers gathered it in a distant climate. Local traders carried it to a port. Sailors moved it across water. Caravans transporting it inland. Officials collected fees along the way. Now it rests inside a Baghdad market. Its final price contains the labor and danger of the entire journey. A cook from a wealthy household stands before the stall. He carries a written list. The family he serves is preparing a large evening meal. Guests are expected. The food must demonstrate hospitality and status without appearing careless or excessive. The cook requests cinnamon, pepper, and a small amount of saffron. The merchant uses a delicate balance. Tiny weights are placed on one side, spice on the other. The saffron is measured with particular care. A few strands more or less matter. The cook watches every movement. The merchant folds the spices into separate paper packets. Each packet is marked so the kitchen assistants will not confuse them. The purchase disappears into the cook's basket. Tonight, the ingredients may flavor rice, meat, sauces, or sweets. The guests may praise the meal. Few will think of the roads the spices traveled. Beside the merchant, an apprentice grinds dried cumin inside a stone mortar. The movement is steady. Press, turn, lift, press again. The fragrance becomes stronger as the seeds break apart. It clings to his clothing and hair. By evening, he will carry the market home with him. Across the lane, a perfumer lifts the stopper from a glass bottle. A customer leans closer. The oil inside contains rose, perhaps mixed with musk, ambergris, or another valuable scent. Perfume is used in homes, bathhouses, ceremonies, hospitality, medicine, and personal grooming. In a hot city filled with animals, smoke, crowded streets, and workshops, fragrance carries special importance. The perfumer places a small drop onto a thin wooden stick. The customer raises it toward her face. At first, the scent is sharp. Then it softens. She waits. A good perfume changes slowly against the warmth of the body. The customer asks what ingredients have been used. The perfumer answers partly, not completely. Recipes are part of the trade. Knowledge may pass through families or apprenticeships. A successful mixture can distinguish one shop from many competitors. Several bottles stand behind him in blue, green, and clear glass. Others are made from ceramic or metal. Some are small enough to fit inside a closed hand. The most expensive contain only a little oil. Luxury is often measured in drops. A servant from an elite household arrives carrying an empty container. The perfumer recognizes it. The same blend is requested again. He fills the vessel from a larger bottle. The servant checks the seal. The exchange is added to a written account. Payment may come later. Trust between established households allows goods to move before coins do. You leave the perfume sellers and enter a lane of food stalls. The air becomes warm with smoke and cooking. Clay ovens glow behind open counters. Metal pans rest above charcoal. Cooks prepare meals for people who cannot return home during the day. Porters, travelers, apprentices, messengers, sailors, officials, students. The food must be affordable, filling, and ready quickly. One stall serves bowls of lentils cooked with onions and herbs. Another offers chickpeas with oil and vinegar. At a third, pieces of meat turn slowly above glowing coals. Fat falls into the fire. A brief flame rises, then disappears. The cook brushes the meat with a mixture of oil and spice. The fragrance reaches far into the street. Several customers stop. One had not intended to eat. Now he changes his mind. Bread is stacked inside cloth-lined baskets. Some loaves are thin and flexible, others thicker. A customer tears off a piece and uses it to lift food from a shared dish. Spoons exist, but bread can become both food and utensil. At a soup stall, a vendor fills a bowl with a thick mixture of grain, vegetables, and small pieces of meat. A worker pays with a few coins. He sits upon a low bench beneath the awning. His hands are rough and dusty. Perhaps he has been unloading boats. He eats quickly at first, then more slowly as the warmth reaches him. The market moves around him. For a few minutes, he does not need to lift anything. A water seller walks through the lane carrying a large container. Small cups hang from its side. He calls softly to attract attention. The day is becoming warmer. People working beneath awnings still lose water quickly. A customer raises one finger. The seller stops, fills a metal cup, hands it over. The customer drinks. The cup is returned, rinsed briefly, and filled again for someone else. Cleanliness standards differ from place to place. So does the source of the water. Careful households may boil it or store it in covered vessels. Market workers often accept whatever is available. The seller adjusts the strap across his shoulder and continues. You pass a stall selling yogurt, cheese, and butter. The dairy products are protected beneath cloth and kept inside shaded containers. Heat is the enemy. The seller works quickly. Fresh cheese must be sold before it changes. A woman purchases a small amount and asks whether it was made that morning. The seller assures her it was. She smells it anyway. Trust is useful. Inspection is better. A few steps away, a sweet maker arranges trays of pastries. Some contain nuts and honey. Others are made from flour, sesame, dates, or syrup. The finest pieces are shaped into careful patterns. A child stands beside his father, staring at them. The father continues discussing business with another merchant. The child does not look away. Eventually, the sweet maker breaks a small damaged piece in half and offers it. The child looks toward his father for permission. A nod. The sweet disappears immediately. The seller smiles. The father purchases nothing. Yet the child may remember the shop for years. Markets create loyalty in many ways. You continue beneath a covered section of the street. The light becomes softer. Beams of wood support cloth, reeds, and roofing material overhead. The shade protects customers and goods from the sun. Small openings allow smoke and heat to escape. Beneath the roof, the sounds gather together. Coins touching metal trays. Animals shifting. Sellers calling. Cloth unfolding. A hammer striking copper. The market has its own music. Not organized, not quiet, yet steady enough to become strangely calming. The next lane belongs to textile merchants. Color hangs from every side. Cotton, wool, linen, silk, plain cloth for ordinary clothing. Fine material intended for wealthy households. Bales arrive from different regions. Some textiles are woven in nearby towns. Others come from Persia, Central Asia, Egypt, Syria, or lands farther east. A single garment may unite fibers, dyes, patterns, and labor from many places. One merchant unfolds a length of silk across his counter. The fabric catches the morning light. It appears blue from one angle, green from another. The customer touches it with only 2 fingers. The cloth is expensive. He asks where it was made. The merchant gives the name of a distant city known for skilled weaving. Perhaps the answer is exact. Perhaps it has been improved for the sake of the sale. The customer examines the edge. Fine textiles often carry patterns or inscriptions identifying workshops, patrons, rulers, or places of production. The weave is dense. The color even. The customer requests a smaller length. The merchant refuses. Cutting the roll in that way would make the remaining piece difficult to sell. They discuss alternatives. A different fabric. A different width. A later delivery. Trade becomes problem-solving. At another stall, ordinary wool cloth is being sold to a family. The mother calculates how much is needed for several garments. 1 tunic for a child. Repairs for an older robe. Perhaps a cloak before the cold season. The merchant measures the cloth along a marked cord. The mother watches closely. Measurements can be manipulated. The merchant's hand reaches the end. She asks him to measure again. He does, this time more slowly. The result is accepted. The fabric is folded tightly and tied. At the end of the lane, dyers display thread in brilliant colors. Deep indigo, warm red, golden yellow, soft green. The dyes may come from plants, minerals, insects, or combinations kept secret within workshops. The finished color depends upon preparation, water quality, heat, time, the condition of the fiber. A dyer cannot simply place cloth into a colored liquid and expect perfection. The material must be cleaned, treated, submerged, removed, exposed to air. sometimes dyed repeatedly. An apprentice lifts a bundle of blue thread. The color appears darker while wet. As it dries, the shade changes. His master compares it with a sample requested by a customer. Not yet. The thread returns to the vat. You turn into a narrower passage filled with the sound of metalwork. Copper and brass vessels hang from shop fronts. Bowls, trays, jugs, lamps, basins, cooking pots. Their polished surfaces catch broken reflections of the crowd. A coppersmith sits cross-legged inside his workshop. A rounded vessel rests upon a support. He strikes it with a small hammer. The sound is clear, repeated, controlled. Each mark is part of a decorative pattern. Circles, leaves, geometric forms. Lines of script may be added later. The vessel is useful, but usefulness does not prevent beauty. A family may serve food upon it for decades. Guests may see it at celebrations. Children may inherit it. Daily objects become witnesses to household life. The coppersmith turns the vessel slightly, strikes again. His apprentice works nearby polishing a finished tray with abrasive powder and cloth. The metal brightens slowly. A reflection appears, distorted, then clearer. The apprentice sees his own face within the surface. He makes a foolish expression. The master notices, says nothing. The apprentice returns to polishing. Beside the coppersmith, a lamp seller fills one small vessel with oil to prove that it does not leak. The customer watches the base. No drop appears. The wick channel is examined. The handle feels secure. A lamp is simple, until it fails inside a dark room. The customer purchases two. One for the household, one perhaps for a shop or study. The seller wraps them inside old cloth. A few doors farther on, a locksmith displays keys and metal fittings. Locks protect storerooms, chests, shops, and private rooms. The designs vary. Some are basic wooden mechanisms. Others use carefully shaped metal parts. A merchant brings a damaged lock from a warehouse. It opened during the night despite appearing secure. The locksmith examines it. A spring has weakened. The metal piece can be replaced. The merchant asks whether the lock was forced. The locksmith looks for marks. None. Perhaps the mechanism simply failed. Perhaps someone used a copied key. The answer matters. One suggests repair. The other considers replacing the entire lock. Security depends upon knowing whether the danger came from the object or from a person. You continue into the pottery market. The ground becomes crowded with bowls, jars, lamps, pitchers, storage vessels, and decorated tiles. Some pieces are plain reddish clay. Others carry pale glazes. A few display dark designs beneath a shining surface. Ceramics travel poorly when packed carelessly. A single impact can destroy many vessels at once. So potters and merchants use straw, reeds, cloth scraps, and careful stacking. A customer lifts a water jug. He taps the side lightly. The sound is clear. No obvious crack. He checks the handle, then the base. The vessel is accepted. At another stall, a woman chooses several simple bowls. One is slightly uneven. The seller offers it for less. She adds it to the group. A bowl does not need perfect symmetry to hold food. Behind the stalls, an apprentice moves broken pottery into a separate basket. Fragments may be used to improve pathways, support drainage, fill construction spaces, or serve other practical purposes. A broken object does not always become useless. Cities learn to reuse what they cannot repair. Beyond the pottery lane lies a section devoted to leather and saddlery. The smell is stronger. Hides, oil, smoke, sweat. Leatherworkers cut straps for harnesses, belts, sandals, bags, and book covers. A saddler works on equipment for a caravan merchant. The saddle must survive long journeys over difficult ground. A weak strap could injure both animal and rider. The craftsman tests every stitch, pulls each fastening, checks the padding. A merchant stands nearby describing the route ahead. Several weeks across dry country, long intervals between water. The saddler recommends an additional reinforcement. The merchant asks the cost. The price seems high. The saddler points to a repaired saddle hanging on the wall. Its failure occurred far from Baghdad. The owner paid much more afterward. Prevention is cheaper than rescue. The merchant agrees. An apprentice begins cutting the extra leather. Near the entrance, a cobbler repairs a traveler's sandal. The sole has worn thin at the heel. The traveler hopes to leave with a caravan before evening. A complete new pair would take too long. The cobbler adds a patch, pierces both layers, pulls thread through using a curved needle. The traveler watches the market crowd. His bag rests between his feet. Perhaps he has already traveled for months. Perhaps Baghdad is only one stop. The cobbler finishes. The traveler stands and tests the sandal. Better, not perfect. Enough for the next road. He pays, moves on. The repair disappears into the crowd. You follow the market toward a large courtyard surrounded by rooms and covered galleries. This is a caravanserai, a place where merchants, animals, servants, and goods may remain during their stay in the city. The entrance is wide enough for loaded camels. A heavy gate can be closed at night. Inside, the courtyard is busy. Camels kneel beneath bundles. Horses drink from a trough. Donkeys stand in shade. Merchants speak with brokers. Servants carry feed. Travelers rest upon raised platforms near their rooms. The air contains dust, animal breath, leather, hay, food, and unfamiliar perfumes. A caravan has recently arrived from the east. Its members look tired. Their clothing carries the dust of long roads. Some men have wrapped cloth across their faces against sun and wind. Several camels have small injuries where ropes rubbed against the skin. An animal handler washes one sore place with water, applies a simple treatment, adjusts the load so the wound will not worsen. The caravan cannot continue until the animals recover enough. Trade depends upon their endurance. A camel can cross distances that would be difficult for many other animals. It can carry valuable goods through dry regions. But it is not a machine. It becomes tired, thirsty, injured, difficult. Experienced handlers learn individual temperaments. Which animal walks steadily? Which refuses certain loads? Which bites? Which becomes frightened in crowded streets? One camel turns its head toward a boy carrying feed. The boy steps aside quickly. The handler laughs. A useful warning delivered without injury. Near the center of the courtyard, bundles are being opened for inspection. Silk, dried herbs, paper, dyed thread, small boxes containing precious goods. The merchants do not display everything publicly. Some items will be shown only to trusted buyers. A valuable stone can disappear inside a sleeve. A rare medicine may be damaged by heat. A letter may contain prices competitors should not know. Trade requires openness and secrecy. A broker enters the courtyard. He knows local merchants and foreign visitors. His work is to connect them. He speaks several languages well enough for negotiation. He understands which buyers pay reliably, which sellers exaggerate, which officials must be approached before goods can move. The arriving merchant explains what he carries. The broker asks questions. Quantity, quality, origin, desired price, how long the seller can remain in Baghdad. Time changes bargaining power. A merchant who must leave quickly accepts less. One who can wait may demand more. The broker suggests 3 possible buyers. A meeting will be arranged. His payment depends upon the sale. Nothing has been exchanged yet. Already, the city's network has begun working. You pass beneath a shaded gallery. A group of travelers sits over bowls of food. One speaks Persian, another Arabic. A third uses a Turkic language. A fourth understands enough of several languages to keep the conversation moving. They compare roads, a bridge damaged by flooding, a district where bandits have been reported, a town where water is poor, a governor who collects extra fees, a caravan leaving in 5 days. Information can be more valuable than goods. A safe route saves lives. A warning saves money. Markets gather knowledge from roads before officials receive written reports. A young traveler listens without speaking. He is planning his first journey east. The older merchants notice. One tells him never to allow his water container to become completely empty before searching for more. Another says never to trust a clear sky in the mountains. A third recommends a particular caravan leader. The advice is freely offered, perhaps because each man remembers being inexperienced, perhaps because the road is dangerous enough without unnecessary mistakes. The young traveler thanks them. He may remember only half of what was said. The road will teach the rest. You leave the caravanserai and re-enter the market. The sun is higher now. Shade has become more valuable. Merchants adjust awnings. Water is sprinkled onto dusty ground. The evaporation cools the air briefly. Children carry buckets between stalls. An official moves through the market with 2 assistants. He observes scales, measures, food quality, blocked pathways, and other matters affecting public order. Market supervision varies by place and period, but busy commercial districts depend upon people who enforce shared expectations. The official stops at a grain seller's stall. A standard measure is placed beside the seller's container. The amounts are compared. The seller watches calmly. Perhaps he is confident. Perhaps he has been warned before. The measure appears acceptable. The official continues. At a bread stall, he checks the weight of several loaves. Grain prices have changed recently. Some bakers may reduce loaf size while keeping the same price. Customers notice. Complaints follow. The official speaks with the seller. A note is made. Nothing dramatic happens. Market regulation often consists of small corrections repeated every day. A path between stalls has become too narrow because a merchant placed baskets beyond his assigned space. The official points. The baskets are moved. A butcher has failed to cover meat properly. A cloth is added. A money changer's posted rate is questioned. The assistants record names. Rules cannot remove every form of dishonesty. They can make dishonesty less comfortable. You enter the money changer's quarter. The sound here is quieter than in the food market. Men sit behind sturdy tables. Small balances, weights, account sheets, and locked boxes rest before them. Coins from different regions pass through Baghdad. Silver dirhams, gold dinars, copper coins used for smaller purchases, older pieces, foreign currency, clipped coins, worn coins, metal that may be genuine, or may only appear so. A merchant places a small group of silver coins onto the table. The changer sorts them, one by one. He studies the inscriptions, checks the weight, looks at the edges. A coin may carry a trusted name and still contain less metal than expected. The scale offers another judgment. One piece is too light. The changer sets it aside. The merchant objects. The changer places a standard weight on the opposite pan. The imbalance is clear. Perhaps the coin was clipped. Perhaps poorly made. Perhaps worn through long circulation. It will be accepted only at reduced value. The merchant is unhappy, yet he takes the offered amount. His goods must be purchased today. A clerk records the exchange. Larger transactions may not require sacks of coins moving through crowded streets. Written orders, debts, partnerships, and trusted financial arrangements allow value to travel in other forms. Merchants connected across distant cities rely upon networks of reputation. A promise written in Baghdad may be honored elsewhere by a partner or agent. Trust becomes a kind of road. Invisible, fragile, extremely useful. At the next table, a traveler asks about the cost of changing gold into smaller silver and copper pieces. He will be staying in Baghdad for several weeks. A large gold coin is inconvenient for food, lodging, and ordinary purchases. The changer explains the fee. The traveler thinks it excessive. He walks to another table, then another. The rates differ only slightly. He returns to the first. The changer shows no surprise. Experience has taught him that many customers must complete a circle before accepting the beginning. You continue into a row of paper sellers and stationers. The atmosphere becomes calmer. Bundles of paper rest upon shelves protected from dust and moisture. Sheets vary in quality. Some are smooth and pale, others rougher and more affordable. The increasing availability of paper has changed intellectual and administrative life across the Islamic world. Books, letters, accounts, legal texts, scientific observations, poetry, and translations can be copied more widely. Paper is still valuable, but it offers possibilities that rarer writing materials cannot. A stationer holds one sheet toward the light. The fibers are visible. He bends the corner gently. The customer is a copyist seeking material for a commissioned work. He asks whether the paper will accept fine ink without spreading. The stationer demonstrates using a small scrap. A line is drawn. The ink remains controlled. The copyist rubs the surface, listens to the faint sound beneath his fingertip. He requests several gatherings. The paper is counted carefully, not by weight alone, by sheet. Every missing page matters. A younger customer examines cheaper paper. He is a student. His clothing is clean but modest. He asks for only a few sheets. The stationer suggests scraps and partially used pieces sold at lower cost. One side may contain old writing. The other remains available. The student accepts. Knowledge does not always begin on perfect pages. Beside the stationer, an ink maker arranges small containers. Black ink for ordinary writing. Colored ink for headings, decoration, corrections, or special documents. The ingredients may include soot, gums, plant materials, minerals, or metal compounds. Ink must flow smoothly. Dry at the correct speed. Remain visible. Avoid damaging the paper. A calligrapher tests a black mixture. He cuts the tip of his reed pen. Dips it. Writes a short line upon a sample sheet. The stroke begins thick. Narrows. Curves. Stops. He examines the edge. The ink is slightly too thin. The seller adds a small amount of thickening material. The test is repeated. Better. The calligrapher purchases one container. A page may contain hundreds of marks. Each depends upon the quality of the ink and the discipline of the hand. You enter a bookseller's street. Compared with the food market, it feels almost quiet. Yet it is far from silent. Readers speak. Sellers recommend works. Copyists discuss deadlines. Students argue over grammar. A poet recites several lines to a small group. Pages turn. Pens scratch. Words create their own kind of crowd. Books are displayed on shelves, inside chests, and upon wooden stands. Religious texts. Law. Language. Poetry. History. Medicine. Astronomy. Mathematics. Philosophy. Geography. Collections of stories and wisdom. Some volumes are beautifully bound. Others remain simple working copies. A wealthy official may seek an elegant book written by a renowned calligrapher. A student needs an affordable text covered with notes. A scholar seeks a rare translation. A merchant wants a practical handbook. The same street serves them all. A bookseller speaks with a customer searching for a work translated from Greek. The title is familiar. The shop does not currently have a copy, but the bookseller knows a copyist who may be working from one. He writes a name and location onto a small piece of paper. The customer thanks him. Booksellers do not only sell what sits on their shelves. They guide people through the city's intellectual network. Another customer brings a damaged manuscript. Several pages have loosened from the binding. The leather cover is cracked. A bookbinder examines it. The pages remain complete. The stitching can be replaced. New boards may be needed. The customer asks how long. Several days. Perhaps longer if decoration is requested. The book has already survived many years. A short wait is accepted. Inside the neighboring shop, a copyist reads aloud while two assistants write. Dictation allows several copies to be produced at once, but it creates risks. A listener may mishear. A word may be repeated. A sentence may be skipped. The reader speaks clearly. Pauses at difficult names. The assistants write rapidly. One raises a hand. A phrase is uncertain. The reader repeats it, then explains the spelling. The work continues. At the rear of the room, a corrector compares a finished copy with another text. He marks differences in the margin. A book is not complete when the final word is written. It must be checked, sometimes checked again. The more important the work, the more dangerous a small error becomes. A legal statement. a medical dosage, a mathematical figure. Accuracy has practical consequences. Near the entrance, a poet stands before several listeners. He has brought a new composition. The words are graceful. Images of gardens, stars, distance, longing, and memory move through the lines. One listener closes his eyes. Another quietly repeats a phrase he especially likes. The bookseller watches the group. If the poem gains attention, copies may be requested. Reputation often begins in rooms like this. A few listeners. A memorable line. Someone repeating it elsewhere. Poetry travels through memory before it travels through paper. You remain until the recitation ends. There is no loud applause, only appreciative murmurs. Questions. A request to hear one line again. The poet repeats it. Slower. The words settle into the room. You leave the bookseller's street and enter a shaded courtyard where scribes offer their services. Not everyone in Baghdad writes fluently. Yet many people need letters, contracts, petitions, receipts, business records, or legal documents. A professional scribe sits behind a low table. Reed pens rest beside an ink container. Sheets of paper are protected beneath a cloth. An elderly man speaks while the scribe writes. The letter is intended for a son living far from Baghdad, perhaps with a caravan, perhaps serving in another city. The father begins with formal greetings, then asks about health, work, the journey. He mentions news from home, a marriage, a birth, a roof repaired before the rains, a neighbor who died. Ordinary details become precious across distance. The scribe pauses whenever the father searches for the correct words. No impatience. Emotion rarely follows efficient order. At last, the letter is complete. The scribe reads it aloud. The father corrects one name, adds a final blessing. The page is folded, sealed, addressed through the network that may carry it across many roads. The father holds it carefully. Paper is light. The distance it must cross is not. At another table, two merchants prepare a partnership agreement. The scribe asks precise questions. Who provides money? Who travels? How will profit be divided? Who carries the loss if goods are stolen? What happens if one partner dies? Trade depends upon optimism, but contracts are written for disappointment. The men answer, sometimes quickly, sometimes after discussion. The scribe turns uncertain promises into lines of text. The document will not prevent every dispute. It will give the dispute a shape. Nearby, a woman dictates a petition concerning property. Her brother stands beside her. A dispute has developed within the family. The details are private, yet the solution may require public authority. The scribe listens carefully. He knows that one poorly chosen phrase could weaken the request. He asks for dates, names, witnesses, previous agreements. The woman produces an older document wrapped in cloth. The scribe compares it with her account. The petition slowly takes form. Written words can protect. They can also exclude those unable to obtain them. The availability of scribes offers a bridge. Though the bridge still has a cost. You continue toward a section of the market where scientific and medical instruments are sold. The stalls are fewer. The customers more specialized. Brass scales, measuring rods, glass vessels, mortars, surgical tools. astrolabes or components used by astronomers and travelers, water clock parts, compasses for drawing circles, writing instruments. A metalworker holds a circular plate marked with careful lines. A scholar examines it. The instrument will assist with astronomical observation or calculation. Its accuracy depends upon precise engraving. One line placed incorrectly affects every reading. The scholar points toward a marking near the edge. The metalworker looks. The line is slightly uneven. It can be corrected. The instrument is not yet accepted. Precision is expensive because precision consumes time. At another stall, a physician purchases glass bottles. Some will hold syrups, others oils, powders, or prepared medicines. The glass must be clean. The necks narrow enough to reduce spilling. The stoppers secure. The physician checks each bottle against the light. One contains a small bubble in the wall. Not dangerous. Another has a crack near the base. Rejected. A medicine is useless if its container fails. Beside him, an assistant buys linen for bandages. The cloth merchant recommends a tighter weave. The price is higher. The assistant considers the physician's instructions, chooses the better material. A patient may never know the decision was made here. You leave the specialized stalls and return to a main market avenue. The city is now fully in motion. A line of pack animals moves slowly through the crowd. Bells hang from their harnesses. The sound warns people before the animals reach them. A porter calls for space. A child is pulled away from the road. A merchant protects a stack of pottery. The procession passes. Dust rises behind it. Then the street closes again. A storyteller has gathered listeners beneath a large awning. He stands upon a low platform. His hands move as he speaks. The story concerns a traveler, a ruler, a clever servant, and a hidden treasure. Perhaps it is old. Perhaps changed every time he tells it. The audience includes workers on a short break, children, travelers, and two merchants pretending not to listen. The storyteller lowers his voice. The crowd leans closer. Then he suddenly raises it. Several listeners laugh. One child jumps. The story continues. Markets do not trade only in objects. They trade in attention. A performer earns coins by holding people inside an imagined world. A musician plays a stringed instrument nearby. The melody competes gently with the storyteller. Neither seems offended. Different listeners gather around each. A man selling remedies calls from another corner. He praises the value of a prepared tonic. Strength, digestion, clear thought, relief from pain. His claims are broader than any single medicine could deserve. A customer listens skeptically. The seller offers a sample. The customer declines. The market contains genuine knowledge and confident exaggeration. Distinguishing between them is part of survival. At the edge of the crowd, an official's assistant observes the medicine seller. Perhaps the claims have caused complaints. Perhaps the product is permitted. The seller notices and becomes slightly more careful with his words. You continue until the market avenue opens beside a mosque courtyard. The midday heat approaches. People begin moving toward shade. Some shops close briefly. Others remain active because travelers and laborers cannot wait. A fountain provides water near the entrance. Men wash dust from their hands and faces. Children drink. A porter fills a small container. The sound of water creates a calm center within the market. You sit beneath the shade of a colonnade. From here, the market appears like a living map of the world. Dates from nearby groves, silk from distant workshops, spices crossing seas and deserts, paper carrying translated ideas, coins from many regions, travelers speaking different languages, tools created by local hands. Every object reveals a route. Every person carries a connection. Baghdad's wealth does not come from isolation. It comes from receiving, transforming, and sending things onward. A spice enters the city and becomes part of a new dish. A text arrives in one language and leaves in another. A scientific instrument is improved by a local craftsman. A traveler hears a story and repeats it months later in another land. The market is not only the place where Baghdad buys the world. It is where the city changes what it receives. The call to prayer begins. Voices rise from minarets across the district. The sound passes above the awnings and rooftops. Merchants pause. Customers finish transactions. Some shops are covered, others left under the watch of assistants. People move toward mosques or prepare to pray nearby. The market does not become completely silent. Animals still shift. Water continues flowing. A baby cries. A pot simmers above charcoal. Yet the rhythm slows. For a few moments, profit, negotiation, and movement release their hold. The city turns toward another purpose. You remain in the courtyard shade. The sunlight beyond the arches is bright. Dust moves through it in fine golden particles. A bookseller closes the cover of a manuscript. A money changer locks a small box. A cook lowers the flame beneath a pot. The market rests without truly stopping. When people return, business will continue. Mori goods will be measured. Mori agreements written. Mori stories exchanged. But beyond the market streets, another part of Baghdad is beginning its work. Scholars gather around tables covered with manuscripts. Translators compare Greek, Syriac, Persian, Sanskrit, and Arabic terms. Physicians discuss symptoms observed in hospitals and homes. Mathematicians test procedures with ink and counting boards. Astronomers compare the night sky with older records. The market has brought the world's objects to Baghdad. The next halls will bring together the world's ideas. You rise from the colonnade. The bookseller's street leads toward quieter compounds, gardens, libraries, and private collections, supported by officials, scholars, and wealthy patrons. The market noise slowly falls behind you. The fragrance of spice becomes faint. The sound of hammers softens. Ahead, an open doorway reveals shelves of manuscripts and a courtyard filled with afternoon light. Inside, a translator has placed two texts side by side. One written in Greek, another in Syriac. A blank page waits beside them. The next journey is about to begin. The market slowly fades behind you. The voices of merchants become softer. The scent of roasted meat, saffron, leather, and warm bread remains in the air for a little longer, then disappears beneath the cooler fragrance of shaded courtyards and watered gardens. The street ahead is quieter. Fewer animals pass here. The buildings stand behind high brick walls. Heavy wooden doors protect libraries, private collections, administrative rooms, and scholarly compounds supported by wealthy patrons and members of the Abbasid court. Baghdad's intellectual life does not belong to a single hall. Knowledge is gathered in palaces, mosques, hospitals, bookshops, private homes, observatories, and circles of scholars who meet wherever manuscripts and thoughtful conversation can be found. Yet one name has come to symbolize this remarkable period: the House of Wisdom, Bayt al-Hikma, a place associated with books, translation, astronomy, mathematics, geography, and the preservation of knowledge gathered from many lands. In the year 830, the Caliph al-Ma'mun rules from Baghdad. He is deeply interested in scholarship. Under his patronage, translators, physicians, mathematicians, astronomers, and scribes receive support for their work. Texts arrive in Greek, Syriac, Persian, Sanskrit, and other languages. Some come from old collections. Others are brought through diplomacy, trade, or carefully organized searches for manuscripts. They do not simply arrive and remain untouched. They are read, compared, translated, questioned, corrected, expanded. Baghdad does not only preserve knowledge from the past, its scholars reshape it. You approach a broad entrance framed by patterned brickwork. The doorway is open. A servant carrying a stack of paper steps passes you. Behind him, a messenger waits while a clerk examines a sealed letter. The seal bears the mark of an official household. Inside, a courtyard opens beneath the bright afternoon sky. At its center lies a shallow rectangular pool. Water flows from a small fountain into the basin. The steady sound softens every nearby conversation. Date palms provide shade along one wall. Vines climb wooden trellises. Several scholars walk beneath the covered arcade, speaking in low voices. One carries a manuscript wrapped inside cloth. Another holds a wooden board covered with geometric figures. A third gestures toward the sky as if describing the movement of a planet invisible in the daylight. No one appears hurried. The work taking place here cannot be completed quickly. A difficult translation may require months. A large book may take even longer to copy. An astronomical table may depend upon observations collected across many years. Knowledge moves slowly. Even inside one of the fastest-growing intellectual centers in the world. You follow the colonnade toward a large room whose windows are covered by carved wooden screens. Cool air enters through the openings. Sunlight falls across the floor in patterned shapes. Long tables stand inside. Several manuscripts lie open beneath small weights. Ink pots, reed pens, rulers, knives, and loose sheets of paper cover the surfaces. This is a translation room. At the first table, 3 men sit beside one another. The oldest reads from a Greek manuscript. The letters are narrow and faded. The edges of the pages show years of use. Beside him, another scholar listens and speaks the meaning in Syriac. The third prepares an Arabic version. Translation often passes through more than one language. Many important Greek works have already been studied and preserved by Syriac-speaking Christian scholars. Their knowledge of both Greek and Syriac makes them essential to the intellectual life of Abbasid Baghdad. The translator reads a sentence aloud. The Arabic writer pauses. One term has no simple equivalent. The sentence concerns the structure of the eye. A word may refer to a part of the body, or to the way vision is believed to function. Choosing the wrong term could confuse every later reader. The scholars discuss it. The Greek reader repeats the original phrase. The Syriac translator explains how earlier physicians used the word. The Arabic writer suggests 2 possible terms. Neither is accepted immediately. A 4th scholar is called from another table. He has studied medicine. He listens to the discussion. then asks to see the surrounding passage. A single word cannot always be understood alone. Context gives it shape. They read the paragraph. The physician points toward one choice. It is not perfect, but it will remain clear for students. The word is written. The translation continues. This is the hidden labor behind every book that crosses from one culture into another. Words do not simply change clothing. Ideas must be rebuilt. Some concepts fit easily. Others resist. A translator must understand language and the subject itself. A person translating geometry must understand mathematics. A person translating medicine must recognize anatomy and treatment. A person translating philosophy must follow arguments that may stretch across hundreds of pages. A beautiful sentence is not enough. It must also be accurate. At the next table, a translator works on a text concerning the movement of the heavens. Diagrams appear beside the writing. Circles within circles. Lines connecting points. Small notes near the margins. The original copy is incomplete. A section has been damaged by moisture. Several words have disappeared. The translator compares it with another manuscript brought from a different collection. The second version contains the missing passage, but one diagram differs. Which copy is correct? The scholars place both side by side. The lines are measured. The surrounding explanation is read carefully. One diagram fits the written argument. The other does not. A copyist, perhaps generations earlier, may have drawn one circle at the wrong size. The error traveled inside the manuscript. Now it is discovered. A correction is added to the Arabic version. Translation becomes a form of restoration. Not every ancient text arrives complete. Not every old author was correct. Respect for the past does not require silence before its mistakes. Across the room, a younger scholar sharpens a reed pen. He cuts the end with a small knife, splits the tip, tests it upon a scrap of paper. The line is too broad. He adjusts the angle, tests again. This time, the mark is clean. He returns to his work. His task is not translation. He is preparing a fair copy from a rough draft. The translators have filled the earlier pages with corrections, alternatives, and notes. His version must be orderly. Clear handwriting, balanced margins, headings separated from the main text, diagrams placed beside the correct passages. Future readers may never see the confusion that came before. A finished book often hides the uncertainty of its creation. The copyist dips his pen, writes several words, pauses to dry the ink, then continues. Paper has transformed this work. It is less expensive and more widely available than parchment. It can be produced in large quantities. Records, books, letters, and calculations can circulate more easily. Yet every sheet still requires labor. Fibers must be prepared. Pulp beaten. Sheets formed. Pressed. Dried. Smoothed. Cut. A careless mark wastes material. The copyist's hand remains steady. You move deeper into the room. Shelves stand against the walls. Some hold bound volumes. Others contain folded sections waiting to be assembled. A librarian walks slowly between them, carrying a list. The collection is not arranged for beauty. It is arranged to be found. Works on medicine occupy one area. Mathematics another. Astronomy, philosophy, language, poetry, geography, law. Titles are recorded. Authors named when known. Translators identified. Sometimes multiple versions of the same work are preserved. A librarian must understand relationships between texts. A book may be known by more than one title. An author's name may appear differently in different languages. A work may be falsely attributed. A volume may contain several shorter texts copied together. The collection is a living puzzle. The librarian stops before one shelf. A scholar has requested a work associated with Euclid. He checks the list, then selects a volume wrapped in cloth. Before handing it over, he examines the condition. The binding is secure. No pages appear loose. The scholar signs or acknowledges the loan. Books are valuable. They may leave the room, but they must return. The librarian watches the volume disappear beneath the scholar's arm. Trust is necessary. So is record keeping. You follow the scholar into another chamber. This room belongs to mathematics. The atmosphere is quieter. Tables contain counting boards, wax tablets, rulers, compasses, and sheets filled with numbers. At one end, a teacher sits beside several students. He has written a problem involving inheritance and division. A sum of money must be distributed among members of a family according to specific conditions. The calculation is practical. The method used to solve it is more general. The teacher explains how an unknown quantity can be represented and gradually uncovered. He moves small counters across a board. One amount is added, another subtracted. A term is restored to balance. The students follow carefully. This form of reasoning will become associated with algebra. The Arabic word al-jabr refers to restoring or completing. Mathematics provides tools for merchants, surveyors, builders, tax collectors, astronomers, legal scholars, and anyone who must divide, measure, compare, or predict. Yet the scholars here are also interested in mathematics for its own patterns. A problem may begin with inheritance and end with a method useful in 100 other situations. One student asks whether the same procedure works if the unknown amount is larger than the first total. The teacher does not answer directly. He asks the student to test it. The young man begins writing. His first attempt produces a contradiction. He stops, returns to the earlier line. A sign has been copied incorrectly. The mistake is corrected. The result now makes sense. The teacher nods. Understanding grows when the student discovers why the first path failed. At a nearby table, a mathematician studies symbols used in Indian calculation. The digits allow numbers to be written efficiently according to position. A small mark represents an empty place within the system. The idea appears simple after it is understood. Before that moment, it can feel strange. Why should the position of a symbol change its value? Why should emptiness require its own sign? The mathematician explains the method to a visiting clerk. He writes a number, moves one digit. The value changes completely. He then demonstrates multiplication. The clerk watches. The procedure is faster than the system he normally uses. He asks to see it again. The calculation is repeated. Knowledge becomes powerful when it saves time. But new methods often travel slowly. A clerk accustomed to one system may distrust another. A merchant may refuse unfamiliar notation. A teacher may need years to persuade students. The mathematician writes another example. The clerk begins copying. A new method starts its journey through Baghdad. You continue into a room where maps cover the tables. The city disappears. The world opens. Sheets show the Mediterranean, the Indian Ocean, the Red Sea, the Persian Gulf, rivers, mountain ranges, roads, cities, and coastlines. Some maps are based upon older geographical works. Others incorporate reports from merchants, sailors, officials, and travelers. No map is complete. Some distances are carefully measured. Others estimated. A coastline may be accurate in one section and uncertain in another. An island may appear too large. A river may bend incorrectly. The world resists being flattened onto paper. A geographer speaks with two travelers who have recently returned from the east. One describes a mountain pass. The other explains that a river marked on the map flows farther south than shown. The geographer asks how many days they traveled between two towns. The answer is uncertain. 3 long days, or 4 shorter ones. Travel time depends upon animals, weather, road conditions, danger, and rest. Distance is not easily separated from experience. The geographer listens, compares their account with an earlier report. One detail matches, another conflicts. He writes a note rather than changing the map immediately. A single traveler may remember incorrectly. Several independent accounts create greater confidence. The men continue. They describe a city with high walls, a busy market, and unusually cold winters. The geographer records the information. Perhaps future travelers will confirm it. Perhaps not. A map is not a final truth. It is a collection of the best available answers. At the far end of the table, another scholar studies measurements of the Earth. The idea that the world is spherical is not new. Greek scholars discussed it centuries earlier. Indian and Persian traditions also contain astronomical and geographical knowledge. Baghdad's scholars compare these traditions and attempt new measurements. How large is the Earth? How can distance be calculated from the angle of the sun? How far does 1 degree extend across the land? The Caliph has supported efforts to investigate such questions through direct measurement. A group of surveyors has traveled into open country. They measured distances carefully while observing the position of stars. The results are being studied. The scholar draws a circle, marks an angle, writes several figures. The entire Earth becomes a geometric problem upon one sheet of paper. Outside, the afternoon sun crosses the courtyard. Its light reaches a doorway leading toward an astronomical workshop. You follow. Brass instruments rest upon tables. Circular plates, sighting devices, measuring rods, water clocks, astrolabes in different stages of construction. An instrument maker bends over a brass disc. The surface has been polished smooth. He uses a fine tool to engrave lines around the edge. Each mark must be placed precisely. The astrolabe can assist in determining time, studying the altitude of stars, supporting travel, and solving various astronomical problems. Its usefulness depends upon mathematics shaped into metal. The craftsman is not merely following decoration. Every line carries meaning. He checks the scale with a compass. One mark is slightly uneven. He deepens the line, then continues. An astronomer enters carrying a wooden box. Inside rests an older instrument. One part has loosened. The central pin no longer turns smoothly. The craftsman removes it, examines the wear. A replacement can be made. The astronomer explains that the instrument must be ready before the next series of observations. Several planets will appear in useful positions. The craftsman promises the repair by evening. Astronomy depends upon the sky, but also upon people who understand metal. In the adjoining courtyard, a water clock measures the passing hours. Water drips steadily from one vessel into another. Marks indicate intervals. An assistant checks the level, records it. The flow must remain consistent. Dust or mineral deposits can narrow the opening. Temperature may affect the movement. The clock is inspected frequently. Time appears to pass naturally. Measuring it requires maintenance. Several students stand around a large celestial diagram drawn upon a board. The astronomer teaching them points toward the path of the sun. He explains the relationship between the seasons and the changing length of the day. Then he turns toward the stars. Certain stars rise at predictable times of year. Their appearance can help organize calendars, travel, agriculture, and religious practice. Accurate observation also assists in determining prayer times and direction. The work of the astronomer touches both intellectual curiosity and daily life. One student asks about a report from an earlier Greek astronomer. The old model predicts a position slightly different from their recent observation. The teacher asks how the observation was made. Which instrument? Which night? Was the horizon clear? How certain is the measurement? Before correcting an old authority, the new evidence must be examined just as carefully. The student gives the details. The teacher studies the figures. The difference may be real. More observations are required. Science advances through confidence balanced by doubt. Too much certainty preserves mistakes. Too much doubt prevents action. The teacher marks the date of the next observation. The question remains open. You leave the courtyard and follow a shaded passage toward a medical library. The scent changes. Ink and paper remain, but now they mingle with vinegar, herbs, oils, and dried plants. Physicians study texts here. Some are translations of Greek medical writers. Others come from Persian and Indian traditions. Still others contain observations made by physicians working in Baghdad's hospitals and households. A senior doctor sits with several students around an open book. The passage describes fever, not one disease, but a sign that can appear for many reasons. The physician asks the students to describe different patients they have seen. One remembers a child whose fever rose at night. Another describes a traveler with fever and stomach pain. A third speaks of a wound that became hot and swollen. The physician listens. The same symptom does not always require the same treatment. Observation matters. The patient's age, diet, environment, pulse, breathing, pain, urine, sleep, the season, how the illness began, what changed. A book offers guidance. The patient provides the real problem. The physician turns a page. He compares the older description with a case recorded by a doctor in Baghdad. The treatments differ. The students discuss why. Perhaps the climates are different. Perhaps the disease was not the same. Perhaps one physician was wrong. Medical learning does not end with translation. Old ideas must meet living bodies. At another table, An assistant prepares a list of medicines. Honey, rose water, vinegar, zeno, myrrh, different roots, seeds, minerals, and oils. Some soothe symptoms. Some may assist recovery. Others rely upon theories that future generations will reject. Yet the physicians attempt to organize knowledge, to record ingredients, dosages, preparation, effects, warnings. The desire to reduce suffering encourages careful thought. A student asks about a medicine mentioned in an Indian text. The plant is difficult to obtain in Baghdad. Could a local herb serve the same purpose? The senior physician considers this. Similarity of taste or scent is not enough. The substances must be tested through experience. A replacement may work. It may also fail. The physician advises caution. Medicine carries a greater cost for error than many other fields. An incorrect poem disappoints. An incorrect treatment can injure. You enter a smaller room where manuscripts are being illustrated with medical diagrams. A draftsman prepares a careful drawing of the eye. Another sheet shows instruments used in treatment. The images are not intended as decoration alone. They help readers understand objects and structures difficult to describe with words. The draftsman works with a physician seated beside him. The physician corrects the position of one line. The drawing is changed. Art becomes part of medical instruction. In another corner, a bookbinder prepares several completed sections. Folded pages are arranged in order, stitched together, attached to protective boards, covered in leather. The binder presses the volume beneath a heavy weight. A book is knowledge and an object. Without strong binding, the pages separate. Without a cover, dust and handling destroy them. The binder runs one hand across the leather. The surface is smooth. Tomorrow, the title may be written upon it. The translator, copyist, corrector, illustrator, and binder all contribute. No single hand creates the entire book. You return to the main courtyard. A meal has been arranged beneath a shaded arcade. Scholars, translators, scribes, and visitors gather around low tables. Bread, olives, cheese, dates, cucumbers, lentils, a dish of rice with herbs, water cooled inside porous clay vessels. The food is simple. Conversation is not. At one table, a mathematician explains an Indian calculation method to an astronomer. At another, a physician asks a translator about a difficult Greek term. A poet listens to a geographer describing the ocean. A Christian scholar, a Muslim physician, and a Persian administrator share bread while discussing a manuscript. Baghdad's intellectual life depends upon people from different religious and cultural communities working together. Their agreements are not complete. Their beliefs are not identical. They may disagree strongly, but a difficult text creates common work. A mathematical proof does not ask the translator's religion. A fever does not care which language names it. The stars rise above everyone. At the edge of the meal, a young student remains quiet. He has only recently entered the scholarly circle. His clothing is modest. He watches the older men speak. The speed of the conversation overwhelms him. Greek authors, Indian numerals, Persian royal records, medical terms in Syriac, astronomical tables. He understands only part. Then the translator beside him asks a simple question. Where did the student learn his handwriting? The young man answers. His father is a clerk. The translator asks to see his notes. The student hesitates, then produces several pages. The handwriting is careful. The margins clean. The translator points toward one line. A small error. Then another line. A good observation. The student listens closely. A door has opened. Perhaps he will be invited to assist with copying. Perhaps not. In scholarly life, opportunity can begin with someone noticing a page. After the meal, the courtyard grows quieter. Some scholars return to work. Others walk slowly beneath the palms. The heat of the afternoon rests above the walls. Water in the fountain continues flowing. A translator sits alone with a manuscript upon his knees. He is not writing, only thinking. One passage has resisted him all morning. A philosophical term carries several meanings. Every Arabic choice emphasizes one and weakens another. He watches the fountain. Perhaps the answer will appear. Perhaps not. Translation sometimes requires waiting. A solution cannot be forced simply because the page is ready. Nearby, two students debate a geometrical proof. One believes the argument is complete. The other points toward an assumption that has not been established. They draw the figure again in dust. A line. A circle. Another line. The first student becomes frustrated. He erases the diagram too quickly. The second waits, then redraws it. The debate begins again. They may continue until evening. No teacher interrupts. Struggle is part of the lesson. You walk toward a staircase leading to the roof. The steps are narrow. At the top, Baghdad opens around you. The city stretches in every direction beneath the afternoon light. The Tigris divides the landscape with a shining curve. Boats move slowly across it. Gardens form green spaces between brick neighborhoods. Palaces rise beyond walls. Minarets stand above crowded districts. Smoke drifts from bakeries and workshops. Farther away, the dry land extends toward the horizon. From this height, the market you visited appears small. Yet its trade routes connect Baghdad to lands far beyond what you can see. The manuscripts below follow the same routes. A Greek text may travel east, an Indian method west, a Persian story south, an Arabic commentary north. Ideas move like rivers. They change as they travel. They divide, rejoin, carry traces of every place they pass. An astronomer has set up an instrument near the edge of the roof. He is checking its alignment before sunset. A student holds the base steady. Another records measurements. The instrument points toward a position where a star will appear later. The astronomer makes a small adjustment. Then another. The work must be completed before darkness. Night observations depend upon daylight preparation. You ask no questions. You simply watch. The scholar tightens a fitting. The instrument becomes still. He looks satisfied. Below, the translators continue writing. The physicians compare cases. The copyists fill pages. The binders stitch books. The librarians record titles. No one here knows which works will survive for 1,000 years. Some may disappear within a generation. A fire, a flood, war, neglect, insects, a single damaged roof. Knowledge can be lost easily. Yet people continue copying. Not because survival is guaranteed, but because possibility is enough. A book copied today may reach a student not yet born. A method developed in Baghdad may solve a problem in another country centuries later. A translation may preserve an idea after the original has vanished. The scholars cannot see the future. They work toward it anyway. The afternoon begins to soften. Sunlight becomes warmer. The shadow of a minaret stretches across nearby roofs. Servants light lamps inside the lower rooms. The first evening study sessions will soon begin. Astronomers prepare for night. Physicians leave to visit patients. Messengers carry completed documents toward official buildings. A copyist covers his ink. A translator rolls a manuscript and ties it with cord. The house of wisdom does not empty all at once. Some work belongs to daylight. Some begins after the stars appear. You descend from the roof and return to the courtyard. The pool reflects a sky turning pale gold. A loose sheet of paper lifts in the breeze. A student catches it before it reaches the water. He laughs softly. The page contains only rough calculations, but he smooths it carefully. Even unfinished thought deserves protection. You leave through the broad entrance. Behind you, the fountain continues its quiet rhythm. The scholars remain among their books. Ahead, the street leads toward one of Baghdad's hospitals. Their knowledge leaves the page and meets pain, illness, injury, and hope. Physicians will examine patients. Pharmacists will prepare medicines. Students will listen beside beds. The translation halls have gathered wisdom from many cultures. Now, you will see how that wisdom is used to care for the people of the city, and as the final light fades across the Tigris. Let Baghdad's markets grow quiet, its manuscripts rest beneath the lamps, and its scholars turn their eyes toward the stars. Thank you for joining this peaceful journey through the Islamic Golden Age. Good night. Sleep peacefully. And until our next journey through history.